Screenless. Hello and welcome to another Creative Cuppa. I hope you're having a great week. Now, I genuinely feel for anyone whose wedding day was planned for in 2020. There's so much that goes into planning for the big day, and I can only imagine the disappointment that people must have felt when the rules changed and suddenly the guest numbers had to drop right down. Or people planning weddings abroad and finding their travel plans just cancelled overnight. Maybe you or someone you know went ahead regardless. Let me know via @ScreenlessPod on the social media. Today's guest, Mike Langley, has had an interesting year as a wedding photographer or wedding hybrid photographer. He'll explain that shortly. Yes, of course, many bookings were transferred to next year, like so many things. I hadn't considered, though, that with couples being forced to slash their guest numbers, creating a record of the day through photography and video is made all the more important in order to share with friends and family who can't be there. And one more thing, Mike has two careers, a media composer like me and a wedding photographer, both creative jobs, both affected by the pandemic. It's been and is a tough time for the creative industries. It's impossible to work for some, and whole creative sectors are on the brink of collapse. However, the optimist in me feels like the creative sectors will thrive again, despite the government's best efforts to let us fail. As humans, we need music and art and TV and film and books and theatre and poetry and creativity in whatever form it might take. There's a whole side of our brains dedicated to creativity, for goodness sake. So hang in there, fellow creatives. It's going to get better. And in the meantime, pop the kettle on and let photographer Mike Langley's sunny disposition distract you for a little bit. Mike Langley, wedding hybrid photographer. Welcome to Creative Cuppa.
And thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Mike, what is a wedding hybrid photographer?
So it's wedding photography in its traditional sense, and it's wedding videography or filmmaking in its traditional sense, but it's both happening at the same time. I guess I'm slightly rarer than an awful lot of other people who offer the service in that I do both things at the same time, which is it's just an ability to use both hands independently. So it's that's all it really is, and it's brilliant. You know, I really enjoy the combination of both. I mean, mostly for the creative control that it gives you, but then mostly for the consistency and the results. So it's what I really like to see is to deliver an image to a couple so they can see that image, and then years and years later they go, well, what were we doing there? I can't remember, like, why was Uncle Jim laughing so much? And it's like, well, here's a piece of video which is identical to that. So it kind of, you know, that theoretically that combination brings the photos to life.
God, you must have a huge amount of footage and photos at the end of the day, though.
More than some, not as much as some others. I'm a little pickier about what I shoot and what I don't shoot, and I suppose that's just come from years and years of experience, I suppose. And it's you know, there's some things that you think, well, you know, I've got 9 shots of lip gloss going on a bride here. I probably don't need any more, because I'll probably just use 3 seconds of one, and that is it, and that's fine.
And I suppose that helps with that feeling of responsibility for capturing a couple's wedding day.
Yeah, I mean, it's an enormous responsibility, and there's times of the day which are terrifying, I guess, but they're not terrifying anymore. You kind of just take them in your stride now. But it's those one take moments, you know. The bride coming up the aisle, it's not going to happen again. You've got one shot to get it, and you've got to get all the photos, and you've got to get all the video, and you've got to get the groom's reaction, and you know, and it's difficult to do.
Do you have that kind of panic moment at that point on the aisle where you think, God, battery, don't let me down now.
Yeah. Well, like right before the ceremonies, it's fresh batteries, new memory cards if I need them.
Yeah.
Like everything's triple checked, and I mean, there's a crucial little moment when the registrar or your vicar or whatever will announce for everyone rise for the entrance of the bride. And it's that moment that I do this fastest scan of my gear ever. It's like, okay, everything's running. Okay, mics are all on. It's all going, and I'm ready to just go. Go.
Brilliant.
And it's it's helped enormously by the technology that's available now, and it's something that would have been much harder to do when I very first started. Although I did do it, it was a little bit more difficult. I don't use tripods or anything like that. There's no it's literally like DSLRs like hanging off my body. So
wow,
I've learned to be incredibly stable. So so like any of the footage.
I was going to say that can be incredibly challenging, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep a camera. I mean, you do have image stabilization nowadays, but to keep a camera steady for that length of time, I mean, you're talking a whole day.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It's pretty.
Must be like Popeye.
It's pretty hard on the shoulders. Yeah, I wish.
Spinach ready.
Yeah, and I've kind of learned how to. There's a number of I like to call them trademark moves that I have, which help with the stabilization, and there's things that I know I shouldn't do. If I walk with the camera, it's going to have a jolt in it. Where the step goes. So I know that doesn't work so much, but it is usable as a shot. It's fine.
Is it a bit like archery where if you stay in position for long enough, you're going to start shaking?
Yeah, absolutely.
Swift.
Yeah. The thing that's kind of sort of blown other people's minds a little bit about it when I've asked them is that I manually focus as well for the video. So only for the video. I don't.
Wow.
So
just for the video. Yeah.
Just for the video. So like as the bride's coming up the aisle, I'm tracking her down the aisle manually without looking at the camera whilst taking photos. But it's a weird technique, and music helps me enormously with it because it's as I'm waiting at the front for them to come in, guests are still coming in. So what I do is I track a guest going down and literally time the movement of my hand and just like beat it out to something.
So yes,
I'll have
because of course you are a composer as well.
Yeah. So it's that kind of side of it, or I mean certainly those like musical sensibilities really play a big part in the way everything's put together. It's really crucial. So I find I can time it well enough to follow her right down to the front, and it works beautifully. So it's.
So you mentioned about the advances of technology in your equipment.
Yeah.
Take us back then. When and how did you get into photography in the first place, and how did you settle on wedding photography in particular as a business?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't. It was like totally accidental. The intention was to be a filmmaker. Because I thought, well, I'm writing all this music and I can't get it out anywhere. This was before I ever did any like TV stuff or anything as well. So I thought, well, I'll just make my own film and I'll just score it myself. And that's how I'll do it. So the band I was in previously, our bass player's he's like a big VFX guy. So he had loads of really great gear and stuff. So we used to shoot our own videos, and I was absolutely fascinated by it all. So made a bit of money out of music and just bought my own gear. So I had a couple of cameras and shot a couple of music videos and things like that. And
Mike, are they available for viewing on YouTube or anything?
They are. They're probably fairly awful, to be honest, because they're quite old and dated now.
I won't put those in the show notes. Then.
But yeah, there's a couple. I used to do a lot of work on the music side for a contemporary classical label, and it was a real like one-man band kind of operation, but it was quite far-reaching in what it did, and very niche. So we used to, as well as sort of like engineering and editing albums and stuff, I would also like shoot promos and things like that for the label, which was great. So that was a really nice kind of soft introduction into it. And then the photography kind of just came along with that. It was something that always interested me anyway. I did some photography stuff for a friend's business. He imported mirrors. So I used to shoot all the product photos, which is like it's trial by fire. Photographing mirrors and not getting yourself in all the shots. It was awful. So that kind of taught me quite a bit. But then, yeah, it was really taking what I'd learned from doing like the music video stuff and the promo stuff, and it's really this try to attain this incredible quality with really cheap gear. I'm thinking, right, how do I make this look so expensive with a couple of £100 worth of gear and like a borrowed lens and things like that.
There's a lesson in there for all creatives, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
The equipment particularly, it's the storytelling in the shot or in the music or in whatever art form it is.
That's right. I mean I've certainly like when I worked for the label, we had no money and there's no budget for contemporary classical music. Like at all. There's nothing. And we recorded albums which were like really like quite highly regarded and beautifully reviewed. We'd be in the Times and stuff with great reviews. And the mics that we used on those like cost less than a pizza or something,
Wow.
Because we couldn't afford anything because there was no budget. There's no budget coming in, so we can't invest in it without taking gargantuan loans out and things. So
amazing.
You just hunt down the best gear you could, and you just relied on a really clean signal path and really amazing players, and that's what did it. It's the great playing that made it. It's that it was just a bit of a tool to document it, and that's it. And that's exactly how the wedding thing started as well. And it was a good friend of mine called Lee, he was a good mate of my youngest brother, and he was an established wedding photographer. And he saw a music video that I did, and he said, "Do you ever think about shooting wedding videos at all?" And I said, "No." Why would I ever want to do that? And he said, "Well, what do you want to do with it?" I said, "Well, I really want like shoot a horror movie or something like that." And he says, "Oh, right, okay." He's quite a bit of money in it though. And I said, "Okay, yeah, I'm listening." And then and it sort of rolled from there. So like my first wedding I did for free. Just to get a bit of a show reel, and it was great. And I kind of thought, it's going to be awful. Just it's like being a stranger at someone's party and then sticking a camera in their face. It's like it's just the most horrible experience, but it was actually brilliant. And because it's such a happy day, and everyone is delighted, so they don't care at all that you're a total stranger. And if you're personable and like human enough, you just get on with these people and have a fantastic time, and it's brilliant. And then the hybrid stuff came very, very soon afterwards, and it was a complete accident how that happened. It was a bride who'd booked me for what I thought was just a wedding video, and she started talking to me about all the photos. And I was like, I'm going to have to stop you because I have no idea what you're talking about. So why are you giving me group shot lists and stuff? I'm just filming it. Oh, I thought you'd just photograph it as well. And I thought, well, no. And I was like, okay. And because I was quite new to it all, I guess, I didn't know that was a weird thing for people to do both at the same time. And she said the most brilliant thing to me. And she's called Joanne. And her husband's called John. So if they're listening, it's your fault. And she said to me, and it stuck to me to this day, she says, "Well, whatever you filmed, just take a photo of it." And she said it in such a blasé, easy way. I thought, well, yeah, of course. Well, it's just a still image. And to achieve that, all it would take is either a flick of control on the camera or another camera set up just to do stills. So every time I filmed something, I took a photo of it and then just moved on. and that's how it worked. And then, eventually it was like, oh, the bride's coming down the aisle. Okay, I need to film this. Oh, I need to photograph this as well. Okay, I need to keep really still. Oh, okay. And then, that's kind of like when the technology caught up and the stabilization got an awful lot better, and I got an awful lot steadier and calmer about doing these things, it just felt straightforward and quite natural.
Yeah.
And I loved the results that I got, because it was that consistency.
I love the results as well. Looking at the photos and the films on your website, they
thank
are
you.
so professional looking. I don't quite know how you do it yourself with a piece of equipment and each
it's
astonishing.
I mean, every so often I hire like a second photographer to sort of like back you up a little bit. There's times where you can't capture certain things. It's just like logistically impossible to have one person like photographing the bride as the groom's getting ready or whatever. So it's could be very useful. Plus it's like someone else on your team for the day, which is great. So it's I mean, quite often it's like hire a mate for the day kind of thing. So which is lovely. And I've got a few like really trusted people that I work with, and it's fab. So I could just sort of let them loose to just go and shoot whatever you need to shoot. It's fine. And,
nice.
But being a bit of a megalomaniac, I end up shooting all the same stuff anyway. So
So, speaking of your website, where can people find your business online?
You can find me on Facebook, which is Satin Pictures, or on www.satinpictures.co.uk.
Fantastic. I will put those links in the show notes for you.
Thank you so much.
But for now, Mike Langley, wedding hybrid photographer, thanks for joining me for a cuppa.
Thanks so much, Gareth. Cheers, mate.
Thanks again to Mike for his time and insights. How on earth he manages to hold all that equipment in both hands and get the amazing photos and video at the same time is beyond me. So if you're planning your wedding and haven't sorted the photography yet, go and check out Satin Pictures. The link is in the show notes right below. Please do come and say hello on Twitter, Instagram and or Facebook using @ScreenlessPod. It would be nice to have some creative chats on there too and find out about your creative lives. But until next time, have a great week and thanks for joining me for a cuppa.